Get your microphone on.
Have that 7 minutes.
You get your microphone.
No one to.
20 seconds.
Yeah. All right, I have 7 o'clock. I'm going to call to order this regularly scheduled meeting of the City Council of Bel Aire. And would you please take roll?
Mr. Jim Benage.
Here.
Mr. Jeff Elshoff. Ms. Betty Martine.
Here.
Mr. Justin Smith.
Here.
And Mr. Jeff Haas.
Here. And we have a quorum. All right, as with all our meetings, we always start out with an opening prayer. I'd like to invite Rob Lindstedt up to the stand to please say a prayer for us.
Since this is graduation time, let me just give a little commercial. First of all, thankful for the Bel Aire Breeze because they put the honor roll in, and the last honor roll, they published the WSU honor roll. 2/3 of the students that were mentioned from Bel Aire were Sunrise connections. Last night we had our graduation, 50 graduates. So far, they've accumulated a little over $1 million in scholarships. We're expecting another 200,000. And so we think that Bel Aire is a good place to train brains. Father, we come to you, and first of all, we thank you for the freedoms that we have in this country. And we thank you, Father, for those people that commit themselves to doing good for the glory of God and for the good of mankind. And Father, we thank you for the place that we live, where our families have such a beautiful neighborhood and good schools, and good playgrounds, and so many freedoms that we can really enjoy. Father, we pray that we'll protect this freedom and that we'll take seriously the job of raising our children. Father, we pray that we'll continue to support our country and those that protect us both nationally and locally. And Father, we thank you so much for salvation through Jesus Christ. In his name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. Now, if everybody would rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the first item on the docket is the consent agenda. It contains the minutes of the May 7th City Council meeting, as well as 2 applications for retail firework permit by Farha Fireworks and Shocker Fireworks. City Code allows up to 4 fireworks permits to be issued per year, and if approved, the total for 2019 is 3.
Mr. President, I make a motion we approve the consent agenda as listed and authorize the president to sign. It says mayor here. Should be the president to sign. Can we get a clarification on that? Should it be president to sign this consent agenda?
The mayor can still sign the consent agenda
Okay.
upon his return, so.
Okay, very good.
Either way.
Then I'll authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
First and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. And it passes. All right, next up is the appropriations ordinance. Appropriations this meeting is $660,898.80. We made a payment for paving in the villas at Prestwick in the amount of $263,000. Paid MKEC Engineering for Woodlawn and Villa at Prestwick $50,000, and the remaining is for day-to-day operations. Are there any questions about the appropriations?
Mr. Council President,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the appropriations ordinance 19-10.
I'll second.
I got a first and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. And it passes. All right, Next up, we have proclamations. We have one proclamation today. Is anybody here for Memorial Day 2019? Nobody here. I'll read it from the bench. Proclamation, Memorial Day 2019. To the citizens of Bel Aire, Kansas, greetings. Whereas since 1868, Memorial Day has been uniquely an American day of remembrance on which we pay our respects and honor the memory of more than 1 million Americans who died in battle and made the ultimate sacrifice for our country and our freedoms. And whereas in keeping with the traditions that have preceded us, many of us have friends and family members who have selflessly given themselves to the future of this great nation and who we honor on this day. And whereas these soldiers were someone's child, spouse, parent, and it is important that we remember every day in this great nation that our freedom came at a price. And whereas veterans have bravely served in all parts of the world, not only fighting for our freedoms, but for all mankind. And whereas the city of Bel Aire, Kansas joins with other cities throughout the state of Kansas and the United States of America in honoring those who have given their lives and recognizing that their sacrifices were noble, their heroism unparalleled, and their dedication to God and country unforgettable. Now, therefore, I, Jeff Hawes, by virtue of the power and authority vested in me as Council President of the City of Bel Aire, do hereby proclaim May 27th as Memorial Day in the City of Bel Aire and do urge all citizens to join in remembering our veterans. All right, so on to the meat of the agenda here. So city requested appearances. I don't believe we have any actually city requested appearances. Citizens' concerns. At this time, we'd ask anybody that has any citizens' concerns to come up. Yeah.
Sylvia Forte.
And Sylvia, if you could just wait till you get to that way you get to the mic. That way you can introduce yourself and give us your address.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm Sylvia Fort. I live at 4072 North Harding, Bel Aire. And during the April 16th meeting, the council validated the thoughts and concerns of Aurora Park residents. The action was the unanimous adoption of its vision and mission statements, along with the 5 key values. It's our hope that Bel Aire follows them. The vision statement was, make Bel Aire a hometown for everyone. Bel Aire has a historic, traditional, well-established neighborhood with large lots. It has several. Aurora Park's residents wanted Bel Aire to recognize and preserve it, not to destroy it with spot zoning last year. Mission statements. Create a friendly and responsive environment. Aurora Park residents unanimously rejected the city's plan for transitory multifamily housing, which posed parking and other problems on an inadequate lot. We believe that the actions of the City Council and the Planning Commission lacked sensitivity to our quiet neighborhood. Cultivate attractive growth and safe living. The lot for multifamily housing was purchased with the full knowledge of the existing zoning. It's not good planning for an entire neighborhood to be asked to accept a development that from the beginning was ill-suited for both the lot and the neighborhood. Foster a connective community. Legal furtiveness does not foster a sense of community connection. The Planning Commission no longer posts notices on the property requesting a zoning change. This would be very little problem for them to do in the future. It was a practice that was in existence when I was on the Planning Commission. Residents on the same block of that property were not aware of the request for rezoning. The 5 key values: small town pride regardless of size, In order to attract new residents, Bel Aire must overcome the stigma of desperation associated with any inappropriate development. People first. The relative loss of value of existing residents' property and the hardships imposed upon public health, safety, and wellness of individual landowners appeared secondary to the whims of the developers. As you recall, this had the city's sewer lift on it, and were fumes coming out, and those fumes would have been rechanneled into the neighborhood. Working together, many residents appearing before the planning board reported the impression of hostility to their concerns. Creativity and innovation. This requires reflection of overall goals, not just immediate goals. Bel Aire tends to use cookie-cutter packages that do not reflect the necessary desires of the citizens. Inclusion. You may remember this. Aurora Park residents did not feel we experienced inclusion. In fact, we felt our participation was resented. It is our sincere hope that Bel Aire does live up to its mission and its vision statements along with the 5 key values. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else that has any concerns? Seeing none, we will move on. All right, we will start out with our council member reports. Councilman Benaj.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I had the opportunity to go with the Utility Advisory Board yesterday to the recycling center at Hutchinson, Kansas, where all of our recycling is taken. Very interesting process up there. It was favorably impressed, and I see a lot of manufacturing facilities in my auditing and consulting business, so I can tell you they have really a great operation there. Kind of smelly, but it's kind of be expected with the product they're dealing with. So, a couple of interesting things, though, to note is that they did a $6 million expansion in 2014 of that facility. They process 150 tons of recyclables every day from the city of Wichita, and including Bel Aire, because ours is combined with Wichita's when it goes up there. They actually process 175 tons, but that's just what comes from the Wichita area. One of the things that causes them real havoc is plastic bags. So, citizens, anyone listening, when you're recycling, please do not put plastic bags in the recyclables. They're not. Take them to Walmart or Dillon's, as long as Dillon's takes them, but don't put them in the recyclables. They really cause problems on those machines up there and really slow down their productivity, their ability to get things. They have the first thing they do is go through everything to pull out plastic bags. Okay, so anyway, and they are one of the few facilities that does recycle glass, and that's a very good thing because they're able to recycle that, and there's a company in McPherson actually buys it from them, and so that's a great thing. Anyway, so that's all I have to report, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Martin.
Well, on May the 11th, I attended the Dodge City trip with the senior club. It was an all-day thing, but we got to go tour Boot Hill and several different places, and yeah, we went by the cattle pen. And then I did also tour the recycling center in Hutchinson yesterday. And Ann did very well driving in all that rain. It was awful.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Martin. Councilmember Smith.
Thank you. This past week, I did have the opportunity to attend the McConnell 184th Intelligence Wing Tour with the Sedgwick County Association of Cities, and I'd like to thank them for their hospitality and their education that they provided to myself and other local city leaders about the missions that they perform, including how they can help the local community in times of disaster. And so just wanted to thank them for that educational experience, and also wanted to give a congratulations to our city attorney on her selection in the Wichita Business Journal's 40 Under 40. So congratulations.
Thank you. I'd also like to congratulate Jackie for the honor that she's been upheld to. I don't really have much of a report tonight, just saying that hopefully everybody stays dry. That includes inside their homes. Thankfully, we are one of the higher points in Sedgwick County. That gives us a bit of an advantage over others. It doesn't look like the rain's going to stop anytime soon. So, and we will move on to our city attorney.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I would like to thank the city as well. Being nominated for something like that, a lot of the consideration relies on the employer and the reputation of that employer, and being able to represent Bel Aire and something like that is just a wonderful opportunity, and to leverage the reputation Bel Aire has in the business community just was phenomenal. So thank you for that. As for my report, I wanted to update council that the land bank did receive the titles for the Terra Verde sales, and the next steps are for the land bank to work on getting that title insurance. So we'll be getting updated on that as well. Everything is moving along smoothly. Also, the judge and the prosecutor asked me to remind the city, the public, about the handicap parking laws. Handicap parking is only for people with proper placards that are given through the DMV or through the licensing authority, and no person is to park in those spots, whether they're public or private. If the spot is clearly marked, it should only be used for persons assisting with people with disabilities, or a person driving who actually has a disability. And that it's important that the driver of that vehicle, if they are not the person with a disability, have the person be in the vehicle as well. That sometimes makes it tricky. If you're getting in place to pick someone up, you just want to make sure that you can prove to law enforcement that you are transporting a person with a disability. These spaces aren't to be used for used as loading zones or in any other manner. And unlike other tickets, the prosecutor does not generally amend these tickets. The cost of the ticket can be from $50 to $100 plus court costs. So that's something that we wanted to make everyone aware of. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. And our city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Hawes. Just a couple items. The Central Park pool opens this weekend, as you said, weather permitting. I imagine the water will be pretty cool, but it is open to the public. There are day passes, individual season passes, family season passes, and swim lessons all available throughout the summer there. So wanted to let citizens know that that's coming up this weekend. And speaking of this weekend, Monday is Memorial Day, so city offices will be closed in recognition of Memorial Day. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Is there anybody here?
Can I ask a question of our attorney? On the handicap parking, do you know what current ordinance is for appropriate marking of handicap parking? I've heard some discussion about this, and I just wondered if you could clarify that for us.
The current ordinance says clearly marked, so that's something that would go before a judge, and it could be hashed out. Right now, a lot of private places use the blue hashings along with the sign. Clearly marked still remains enforceable if the sign is bent or if it's slightly sun damaged. That could be something that could come up in a trial. Honestly, I think there's enough facts that would matter.
Okay. All right, thank you. I didn't know how specific it was, so I thought I'd ask.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And do we have anybody here from the committees, boards, or commission reports? Okay, didn't think so. All right, we are going to move on to ordinance resolutions and final actions. Item A is online payment services. Last council meeting, Ted presented the council with 3 proposals at the May 7th meeting for online payment services. There were some questions about the company, so the item was tabled. Ted is here again to answer any questions, as is Roger Simons from East City. Thank you, Ted.
Sure. Good evening, council. I hope you had a chance to review some of my report. I also mentioned in my report I had a call out to a city for a reference, and I ended up talking to Charlie Lay from the city of Champlin, Minnesota, which has a population of about 20,000. Talked to him this morning. He really had nothing but good things to say about East City. He said the service they received has been great. Before they had a hodgepodge, which was what I kind of alluded to before in my previous presentation, was I could go with 3 different companies and do a specific for utility, one for recreation, and one for court. But and that's a lot like we were talking the city of Champlin. He said he had the hodgepodge and they just wanted one provider, and it said it's working a lot better. His favorite part of the platform was how customizable it was. He said that they even included registration for Breakfast with Santa this past year online. So that's a pretty good idea. We might have to steal that one, Breakfast with Santa Claus on the holiday season. I asked, is there any hidden costs that you weren't aware of? And he says, no, there's no hidden costs that I was aware of. And then I asked, how does your citizens respond to this platform? And he said he hasn't received any complaints and that they're very responsive. And that was kind of my follow-up with him. I would like to mention that Roger and Brian are here. They made the trip from Kansas City, so feel free to put their time to use and ask a few questions. And I'd ask them if they wanted to say a few things about their company, they can too.
Thanks, Ted.
Hi, I'm Roger Simons, and thank you for the time. We're glad and we're on our approach to provide the services that we do with each city that we do. We treat them individually. And my role is sales and business development, along with being Brian's student. Brian's the president of the company. He's the one who created the code. And we looked at it at a point of being, as Ted said, customizable. So my background, I've been in technology, service and sales for 42 years now. I started with IBM. I worked for them for 20 years out in San Jose area and in Kansas City and in other parts of the country. So when we were approached with Ted about his payment system, we wanted to show him that we could do, other than just the payment systems, everything that you would like to do. So it's kind of it is an actual utility tool that if you come up with like the Santa, we also have a city that has an idea for a dog run park, and they wanted to sell some collars and calendars, and we were able to help them with that. So the tool is really what kind of use you want to do. And I always look at it from that value to the city and the citizens for one place to do everything and manage. And then on the citizen side, how ease of use and simple it is to accelerate and expand the city's capabilities and drive more revenue and make it easier for the citizens to use. So that's where I come into play, Brian. And if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to take those.
I actually have a question for you.
Sure.
Along with expanding, is there any additional fees and costs to add additional services as far as if we were wanting to do some of those special things or add services for the citizens?
Just your patience, no costs and fees, because if you ask us to do some coding or some other development, we'll work with you in the time it takes to do that. So it's not you have to wait for a new version or wait to the next release to get paid for another fee to get charged. No, that's not it. It's your patience with telling us what you'd like to do and then us being able to code it.
I have a few questions.
Go ahead.
Can you talk just a little bit about what implementation will look like? So if we say go here tonight, what does that mean to you guys? What are you guys going to go do, and what kind of timeline is that going to?
Sure, I'll let Brian speak to it. He will go into that in detail.
We can move pretty much as fast as you want to move. Where we'll go from here, once we get a signed proposal from you, is obviously the contract process. While we're doing that, we'll start developing your template. Once we get the template built, and the template will allow us to pretty much replicate your entire website. And we will do it both from a desktop version as well as from a mobile version for you on that one. Once we have that built, the applications will go inside that template. Building an individual transaction or application, whether it be a dog calendar or utility payment, depending on the complexity, can be as little as an hour. Usually it's as long as a few days. We're pretty quick on that. We would expect to be ready June 15th at the very latest, and the biggest outset on that one would be your credit card setup in the gateway. So from our standpoint, we'll start building immediately and should be good to go pretty quick.
Can you talk just a little bit about how your solution will interact with our existing website?
Yes, actually, most of what we do is based on web links, and this would be not only for your website, but I understand you also have an app that's mobile ready. I'm just looking at the app, as Ty showed it to us at dinner today. We expect that we'd be able to put a link in there so your citizens would be able to access it through that. Every one of our pages is accessible directly. Every application is accessible directly, meaning that when you get to the Park and Rec side, your citizen can go from your Park and Rec page and access, I want to register for a community event, not have to come through a front-end portal, so to speak. Same is true with every application page we build. It'll have its own unique link that you can either link through a menu or you can directly put wherever you want to on, again, either your app or on the general website. That answer your question?
Yes, thank you. And then I heard you reference kind of the contract process. I was going to ask if there's an actual license agreement, support agreement, service level agreement that we'll be entering into. Is that at a later phase of the process?
It will actually be right up front. It's all really inclusive. It's pretty straightforward and simple. It's all, once we get the signed agreement for the proposal that we have given the city, we will come back with an agreement that talks about all the service levels. Our uptime has been well past the 99.9% level. We expect that to continue.
Does anyone else have any questions or concerns?
One question maybe for Jackie. Jackie, can you help me understand how the subsequent contract and license agreement will work in conjunction with this proposal? When we, if we authorize this proposal, does that also authorize those additional agreements, or will that be a separate authorization?
That would be a separate authorization.
Okay.
So.
But whatever works, however you'd like to approach it, it's fine with us.
All right, hearing no questions, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Council President.
Yes.
I move to accept and approve the proposal from eCity in the amount of $18,400, or in the amount of $13,000 one-time fee plus $5,400 annual fee, and authorize the council president to sign.
Second.
I have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And it passes. All right, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for the time.
All right, moving on to item B. And we actually in the audience have Chris Madsen, Vice President of WAM Capital. He's here to discuss plans for a multi-unit commercial building located in Bel Aire Industrial Park.
I want to thank the council for taking the time to listen out a little bit about what we have in mind for Bel Aire. First, just want to give a quick overview, I guess, of the company so you guys kind of understand who we are and what we do. We're a private, family-owned business based in Wichita, Kansas. We operate as an operating company, WAM Capital Corp., which is the management company for investments number 11, which is the one that would own the property in question. We've been in the business for about 50 years of owning and leasing buildings in the Wichita area. I mean, everything we do is in Wichita, so this is actually our first step outside of Wichita, so we're pretty excited about that. We currently own about 42.23 acres in Bel Aire. We bought that roughly about 10 years ago with the idea of developing. We bought that, and then the recession, or whatever you want to call it, in 2008, 2009 hit, so we kind of held up for a little while and kind of let things stabilize before we found the right use for the land. But we're pretty excited to kick it off with this project, and have plans for future developments as well right next to it. And one of the things kind of interesting about us is we also carry a general contractor's license as a company. I myself have my license. Mark Michaelis with the company, another vice president, is also here. And so we have pretty close control of what we're doing on our projects and like to, keep close tabs on what's happening there. Next slide kind of talks a little bit about the project itself. That shows the location of it, right at Webb and 45th, and a little bit to the west at Cypress is the street that goes right through the development. What we're talking about tonight is phase one. We have plans to actually duplicate the same thing we're going to do in phase one and phase two once leasing commences, and we feel like things are going the right direction. So, next slide. That gives you an overview. 3 buildings per phase is what we would propose to build there. These are kind of what we call like a flex space for commercial business, so they're office business suites essentially. The idea is that we kind of build them to suit the tenants, so the size can vary depending on what the tenant's needs are. So a tenant could lease the entirety of one whole building, or they could lease a smaller suite, and we would divide it within that building. So it gives us a lot of really good options. They're going to be designed with a real attractive exterior to make them appealing to the people that might want to rent and use them. So just looking at flexibility and options for people that might come in. So we're hoping to have as many as maybe 10 or 11 possible tenants per phase. We could be as few as 3 if we lease each building as a single tenant building. So go to the next slide. Pretty hard to see on there, but that just kind of gives a basic floor plan and some divisions that we could see. So the smallest suite could be as small as 1,800 square feet, which is pretty small, but I mean for a couple employees, somebody that does work like on automobiles or something like that, it could be a good fit. Largest, of course, would be if we lease the largest building as one tenant, and that would be 14,400 square feet. We're building these with, as far as other features and options, 20-foot clear ceilings inside, so it allows for some taller items to be stored inside and used, as well as possibly like a second-story mezzanine storage or potentially even an office suite or something if a person wanted to go that direction. So, as far as generally the construction of the buildings, there'll be a pre-engineered steel building. Is what we're going to put up, but like I say, we've got plans to kind of enhance the frontage of those and make them appealing. We're using the company we use is DBC, which is a Wichita-based builder. They do a lot of that sort of thing, and they're also owned by the same person or individual that owns Mahaney Roofing. And they've been doing a lot of work with these decorative metal panels on some of the buildings at the WSU Innovation Campus. So we're planning to use some of the same decorative features there to really dress up the exterior and make them look real appealing. So I think that's my last slide there. As far as other details, construction timeline, whatnot, we're currently kind of in the design phase and getting everything put together as far as plans go. We've got a lot of architectural drawings done. We're getting ready to enter into engineered drawings, which would be kind of construction documents essentially. We've got pretty much all of our site engineering ready, and we've actually applied with some stuff with the state of Kansas for the notice of intent to disturb more than an acre of land, which is a pretty big deal when you're building on over an acre like this. This is about 3.5 acres we're going to build on. And as far as timeline for construction, I would say we're probably looking at mid to late summer for start of construction and hoping to have these up and completed before the end of the year. So hoping to move pretty quick on this. And I think our expectation was we would probably, as soon as we get approval and things really start to move, we would move ahead with some pre-leasing and try to put some documents together to help us get tenants lined up ahead of time.
Fantastic.
So that's kind of an overview of the project. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have and provide any more explanation that way.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Madsen or our city manager? All right, hearing none, is the council... Go ahead, Bob.
No questions. I just think this is something we're really good to do. We need to be moving along with stuff like this.
Okay.
So this is good. Thank you.
So is the council comfortable in moving forward on this?
Yes.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the letter of intent for the IRB for WAM Investments number 11 LLC and authorize council president to sign.
Second.
All All right, hearing a first and second. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And passes. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. Turn my page here. Item C is some sewer main repairs. At our February 5th council meeting, we contracted with utility maintenance contractors to complete a pour-in-place rehab of certain sewer mains in Pearson's addition. During the cleaning process, they found 4 locations that needed repaired before moving forward. Staff recommends UMC do the repairs and then move forward on the pour-in-place work. And Ann is here for us to answer any questions we may have. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So what is the main cause of these 4 issues?
It varies. The big issue is that these are old clay tile pipes, and through the years, the pipes deteriorate to an extent that there's breakage. Some of the earthquakes may have helped contribute. We don't really have a set cause, but these issues are all over the community with these clay tile pipes. That's one of the main reasons why they are no longer installed anymore. When UMC was originally going through and doing the initial cleaning and televising, they have a specific cutter head with chains on the outside that rotates really fast, and it was able to take care of all the protruding pipes. So you've got your pipe main, and then you've got the service that comes in and protrudes into that main. So they were able to cut those protrusions out. But these locations, several of them are like offset pipes, so if it's fallen or it's deteriorated, roots have intruded. There's a lot of different reasons for it.
I'm guessing they don't work as well.
Correct. And that's one thing. Greg Brueggemann is here with UMC tonight, and he can answer specific questions. But one of the things that he did tell me is we could go ahead and line these pipes without making the repairs. But if we do that, then we're risking some of the same problems that we have now. And it's my opinion that we need to just go ahead and make the repairs. They are expensive, but why go ahead and do all this work if you're not going to make sure you have a nice smooth pipe? And if during their procedure, if anything would get stuck, they would have to do an emergency repair, which doesn't allow us time to notify residents or do any of the other procedures that we would normally do.
I noticed in your report that you said there was a tree that the city would have to remove. Do we have an obligation to replace that tree, or was
We are not planning on replacing that tree, no. It is in the city easement, so.
Oh, it is, okay.
Yes.
Is that tree part of a residence yard?
Yes. There is a picture of it in the staff report. It's by 5810 Flagstaff, and it would be this tree. So it's large. It's not in the best shape, but it's in reasonable shape, and it would probably stand for quite a while. But that's something that the city could look at, is replacing the tree if that's council's desire, but we're not going to be able to replace it with anything like, it does appear that it is in the city's easement or very close to, and we do not want to start digging adjacent to it because it will get into the root system and highly compromise that tree.
Well, that's why you have easements.
Yes.
Yeah. Is the property owner aware that tree has to be removed?
They are not aware yet. We wanted to get council approval for the point repairs before proceeding with notification of residents.
Within the process, you will.
Yes, and I have talked with Jackie, and she is working on letters, and we will go forward and start notifications as soon as we get the approval.
Anybody else have any questions for Ann?
Yeah, and my only question is kind of on the cost of this. I noticed we only had one bid for this. Is UMC the only company that can do these types of repairs?
There are a lot of other companies that can do these type of repairs. I chose just to get the bid from UMC since they are out here doing the work with the intent to not delay the project any more than we have to. If the council wishes, I can certainly go out and get other bids.
Do you expect that there would be a substantial difference in other bids based on your past experience?
That's very difficult to answer based on work. There's probably depending on whether other contractors need the work and are hungry for the work, you may get some substantial difference, but I don't know what their work schedule is.
And I guess what would be the impact of delaying this in order to get additional bids?
UMC would have to answer that. I can't answer the impact on their schedule or if there would be any delays or changes.
Okay.
Would you like?
Yeah, I'd
Greg?
be interested in understanding
Sure.
that.
Greg, would you here come up?
Sure.
Thanks for your, question. And if there was a delay, it might change our schedule when we could get back to it. But the other problem might be, especially this time of year, there'd be more roots in the lines we may have to re-clean. And possibly, if it's a long delay, we could have to do some more cleaning before we can install the cured-in-place pipe. That might involve a little bit more cost, but hard to say depending on what the delay would be.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions for Ann?
Well, Mr. President,
Yes.
I just had a statement that if these are all in a Pearson's edition, correct?
Yes.
Those lines were probably put back in the late 60s. And if we don't start doing something with those clay lines, we're going to run down the road. We're going to run into big problems. So I'm fully in agreement to go ahead and doing this project, even though it is quite a bit of money, but you better be safe than sorry.
That was my opinion on going forward with the point repairs.
Mr. Council President? Yes. My thought is we absolutely need to move forward with the point repairs. We've already approved the project to line the sewer pipes and bring these sewers back up to good condition. I'm very happy that UMC is able to do that work for us. My only concern is that it might be worth just delaying this for a 2-week period in order to get a couple of additional bids on this point repair. Since we are talking about over $50,000 here, I prefer to have more than one alternative when considering that.
I appreciate that. A counter concern, and I'm not really saying no, don't do that, but a counter concern is that UMC is very familiar with exactly what the issue is, and anybody else bidding this would have a disadvantage there. They'd have to go in there and see what's going on, or rely on UMC's research or something to be able to make those bids. I just find that, unfortunately, this always happens in construction projects. This isn't the only time it will happen to us. It will happen to us on Woodlawn, I'm sure. They're going to come up with something that we don't know about. My experience has been that you typically go on and give them the order to go on and do it, because if you do other things, you just you put the you put the new contractor at a serious disadvantage, both timeline and familiarity with the project, and you delay the project for whatever time that is that it goes on. I just think it's wiser to stay with the contractor who's already working the project. But I appreciate what you're saying about the $50,000. Yeah, we should look at competitiveness always.
Is this something that, were we to go ahead with it tonight, would basically keep on the timeline that we were already on, using
We are delayed at this point. We've done a couple of the line installs of the cured in place last week, and then the weather has slowed us down on that part of it. But in 2 weeks, it would delay the installs of the CIPP, and we would be able to dig as soon as it gets dry, so we could start, probably not, depending on the weather next week, but we could start digging as soon as we get some dry weather. So. And that would keep us on schedule with what we have to do.
All right, if nobody else has any questions, I would entertain a motion.
I'm going to make a motion to table the proposal for sewer repair costs and revisit it at our next meeting.
Here first, is there a second?
When's our next meeting?
June.
June 4th, I think.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I will second that motion. I share Councilman Smith's concerns, although I am seconding it. I do not intend to vote in the affirmative for tabling it. I think the concern over having multiple bids is certainly, as has already been stated, is something we need to consider, but I think this particular project is kind of already, the balls are already rolling on that, I think. And it kind of, there is a disadvantage here where the bid is already out, and I don't know what advantage we would have in pursuing that. So I'll second the motion, but I'm not going to vote for it.
Okay, first and second, any other concerns or comments? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
And motion fails.
Too far away.
All right, well, is there so do I just ask for a motion to move forward somehow? Is that?
Mr. President, I'll make a motion to approve the proposal for sewer main repairs at the cost of $52,540 and authorize the council president to sign.
Second.
I hear first and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign.
Aye.
And it is approved. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item D, vehicle replacement for planning and zoning. So 3 years ago, a full-time code enforcement was hired to assist in planning and zoning. At that time, an old Crown Vic police car that was going to be traded off was kept for this position. The car has well over 100,000 miles and needed numerous repairs. Staff felt it was better use of funds to simply purchase a replacement truck that can be better utilized than to make repairs to the old car. Bids were received from numerous dealers. Staff reviewed the bids as well as needs of position and is recommending the 2019 Ford F-150 Super Cab from Rustiak Ford at a cost of $20,863. And once again, Ted is here to answer any questions we may have.
End of life's happen for even Crown Vics. We would have to replace the rear, pretty much the whole rear end of the Crown Vics. So I don't think Keith, our director, has gotten any. I think his truck's 2009 or 8. And he says it still runs. So Keith takes very good care of his equipment. I'm sure our code enforcement officer will do the same. This is your standard F-150. That's about it. It's something why we have equipment reserve funds and have a balance in a reserve fund is to replace aging equipment. We've looked at several different avenues, whether it was using different vehicles from our fleet from other areas, but really there's no good option that we could find that would satisfy all the needs of the code enforcement officer.
So a question I have is this particular one has a 3.0 liter engine in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand that's pretty underpowered on a Ford F-150 from a couple of sources I've checked with. And I'd sent a note to Keith. I guess he's been out. I don't know. And so he's not answering my note. But I sent a note to him and said to please look at a 5.0 liter or a 2.7 EcoBoost. I'm no expert in cars, okay? So don't come back and say, well, you said, because, I'm not a car guy. I buy cars a utility to me. And so there are some people here, I'm sure, that know a lot more about them than I do. But I just understand that this 3.0 liter engine in this F-150 is an underpowered engine and will reduce its service life substantially because it'll wear out because it's being taxed a lot more than these other two engines would. Now, I don't know what the price of those others would be, but that's just what I understand.
The only thing I do know, I know Councilor Member Elsoff asked about an EcoBoost truck. I don't know if that does anything to the engine or not as far as power concerned. But that was 22, sorry, I'm just pulling it up, 22.7 for the EcoBoost engine. And Ty might be actually a better, he's more of a car guy than I am. On that decision, I think it was, give us your price for the F-150, and our code enforcement officers isn't exactly going to be used in their vehicle quite like our public works crews that might need more of a towing capacity. But Ty might have more insight on the inside ball game on that.
Yeah, so Jeff Elsoff, Councilmember Elsoff, asked about the same question about the EcoBoost. So Ted contacted Ford, and they said that a V6 EcoBoost engine in this particular truck would basically add $1,883 to the bid of $20,000. So that would be that EcoBoost that you're talking about. So if you were interested in that same truck with the EcoBoost, the total would be $22,746.
Yeah. So, Mr. President, I made the same observation that Councilman Benaj made, and that was I'm aware the F-150 has a strong reputation as a strong vehicle, but the standard V6 engine, as Mr. Councilman Benaj pointed out, does have the reputation of being kind of a weak engine for that truck, and the EcoBoost is, based on my research and my just cursory knowledge of trucks, I found that that should have been on our list, and so I think that that's an EcoBoost powered F-150 is what I was favoring based on these things. I did have an additional question, and that is, obviously we're upgrading from a four-door sedan to a truck here, and all the options we're looking at are trucks. I was just curious, do we have, is there any intention to use the truck for work projects beyond the scope of inspections, or does the job of inspections include work that we would require a truck?
Yeah, so we've talked about this at a workshop, picking up signs. A realtor sign, the size that they are, it's much easier to put those in the back of a pickup truck than to try to get them in and out of a trunk or the back seat of a car. So that's the primary reason that we felt a truck would be better to haul things, pick up things like that, and bring them back.
And just in the terms of comparing apples to apples here, so on the current list that's presented on the screen, the F-150 with the standard V6 is the $20,863. The Ford Ranger, which is a slightly smaller truck that was reintroduced by Ford recently, that one does have the EcoBoost, but I think it's the smaller EcoBoost for the smaller truck at $22,612, and Mr. Henry just quoted that the F-150 with the EcoBoost was $22,700. Is that right?
$27,446.
Said $22,746.
Yep.
Well, I motion that we accept the Rusty 2019 Ford F-150 with the EcoBoost engine for the $22,746. And authorize the council president to sign.
I'll second that.
All right, I have a first and second. I would like to say that I do believe I'm also in favor of kind of upgrading to the EcoBoost. I see this vehicle as being able to be a little bit more cross-used for events and things that the city puts on to puts things in the back. I know that when Tristan has events at the Bel Aire Rec Center, I know there's a lot of movement that goes on. There's a lot of things that are thrown in the back of vans and her personal van, and I think that this vehicle would go quite nicely with that. And I think having that little extra, I mean, this could very easily pull obviously the sign that we have around town, but some other things. So I'd be in favor of that too. I think the EcoBoost is a very strong engine. So, anyone else have any questions or concerns? I have a first and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And motion passes. By the way, welcome Councilman Elsmith.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda, the rec center roof. So everybody knows it's been raining nonstop for the last 40 days and 40 nights. And the rec center building is 25 years old, and the metal roof has been leaking and consistently getting worse. Staff solicited quotes for a covering on the roof from several companies. 3 responded, and staff is recommending Farhall Roofing at $56,373.83. Brian Hayes is here to discuss the problems and answer any questions.
Thanks for letting me come up here, guys. Found it real fitting today that this is here tonight. I spent about 2 hours this morning dumping 8 buckets. You can see in the picture one, a steady stream of water coming into it. We have 8 of those buckets up in suspended in the ceiling, above the ceiling tiles. They've been there for some time. I don't know, some of them's been there for probably 10, 15 years. We have Band-Aided the thing over the years. We've had companies come out and patch it. It's slowed it down. It's never completely stopped the leaking. In fact, from my understanding, the building was 1 year old when I started this job. They call me the old timer. I've been around a couple years, but the roof leaked from day one after the building was built. If you can see along the one line, see all the areas that don't look right, that is the gutter line on the south end of the building. That is where the construction company either put failed metal in, or they just walked down there and didn't care where they were walking. So all those flutes are broken down and there's holes in all of them. And they would patch those, but then the warranty ran out, so we've been patching those. And that's where most of the leaking is occurring, right there on that south edge of the building, mainly from where the roof has been compromised and the gutter has some issues as well. We started this by thinking maybe we could coat both roofs. There are lots of neat products out there to do that. And I'm going to pass this along. This is the coating. This is the least expensive route. What they do, they clean the metal, they prime it, they seal all the fasteners, they make sure all the screws are tight, they seal all the fasteners, they take a fabric material and put that over the seams, and then they spray that rubber on top of it. As we're looking at this roof, we felt that maybe the lower roof, the rec center is 2 buildings that are joined together. The lower building where the offices are and the activity rooms are and the restrooms are has a sloped roof. You can see that, and it's got a parapet wall around it. It's kind of a fake wall, more for aesthetics than anything. Keith told me it's for fire prevention, but he said it wouldn't work on this building anyway, and it wasn't even by code that it even be built. So we're just thinking this was the building that was on the shelf and was available to the city when it was bought. the lower roof has some issues. Where it's been patched, you can see right here, this picture right here, that's where the two buildings meet. And you can see there has been, it's white now, but underneath that white is a black rubber that has been put on there. And that was done by a roofing company probably 20 years ago. And the white is the rubber stuff, like I'm passing around, that we have put on top of that. There's some compromised areas, we believe, underneath that rubber, where the roof might be crunchy. It may even be rusty. We don't know. Without tearing that off and tearing the whole roof off and doing a whole new steel roof, which I don't think we want to do because we're talking probably a couple $100,000 for that. So we got to looking at this TPO style roof, which basically is a new lightweight retrofitted roof. They will take these panels, and I've explained this in the report if you've read it, these panels of foam, and they'll fill the flutes in. It's a corrugated roof. So, you know, if you can see that, it's a corrugated roof. So they have these panels that are custom fit that will go in between the flutes, bring it all to one level. And then on top of that, they'll lay this board. It's an insulated board. It's going to give us an R value. It should help us with the heating and cooling of that lower roof. And then on top of that, they adhere a 60 mil rubber roof. So we're going to get, if we go with this system on the lower roof, we're basically getting almost a new roof, you know, a roof on top of a roof. The gym roof, which is the larger building, it doesn't have much problem. I mean, there's a couple intermittent leaks on that. We felt the coating would be fine for the gym. So that's where we're at. There is quite a bit of difference in the quotes. The one that we're recommending does some things that the lower one doesn't. They're putting new wall boards on the inside of the parapet walls and on the gym wall. The other company is going to take those panels loose and then tuck that rubber up underneath it. So we don't know how those panels will go back together, how compromised they might be, and then they're going to put new sheet metal along the top of that parapet roof too. So that's why we kind of like that middle quote from Farha, because they're addressing all our concerns, and it's one company doing both jobs. So that's kind of where we're at.
Just to make sure I understand it correctly, you are proposing to fix all the roofs?
All the roofs.
Not just
the
lower roof?
The new retrofit roof on the lower building, and then coating the upper roof.
Just this coating here.
Right. The gym isn't that bad. It was, to put a TPO system on the gym roof, it was about an additional $50,000 because of the area. The gym is 2/3 the size as the lower building.
Is there a warranty for a timeline as far as
the warranties? Yeah, and it's in your report. They give workmanship warranties and then material and labor warranties. For the TPO roof, the retrofit roof with the rubber, it has a 20-year manufacturer's warranty. So if that product would fail, it's got a 20-year warranty. Now, as far as workmanship, how it was applied and that kind of thing, it has a 2-year warranty. The coated roof, it has a workmanship warranty, and then depending on which company we choose, either a 5 or a 10-year product warranty. So if that rubber roof started to peel, that would be a manufacturer's thing.
Well, I don't know how many roofs anybody here has done. I've done a couple, and the workmanship has got to be there, or you're going to have leaks. It's just and what I'm seeing there doesn't. And I realize this is a picture. I don't actually see the real workmanship there. But what I'm seeing there, that looks like it's lacking. But I'm not there, so.
Yep. I think we kind of have an advantage. Keith Price was involved with this a little bit in helping me through it and get me to the right people. And Keith, I guarantee, is going to be on this project. And if you guys know Keith, there will be no corners cut. Because, well, that's just Keith. And Keith does a great job, and I'm going to hold him to it.
Anyone else have any questions or comments?
Yeah, do you know how long these roofing systems have been around especially that TPO type?
The TPO, it's relatively new, 5 years, 10 years, something like that. And they still do the EPDM roof, which is that black stuff that's under the white stuff right there. It's more of a rubber-looking material. And they still do those, but not very many. They've upgraded to this TPO system over the last decade.
I was involved with a church a number of years ago that did a roof kind of similar to this, but it was more skirted. And this type of thing really worked well for them, for that project. But it wasn't this, but it was a very similar type of project. They had to taper it so it would fit their need there.
All right. Well, if there's no more questions or comments, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Council President.
Yes.
I concur with the staff report and the staff opinion that it's worth a bit of extra spend to get all of that extra work done and the improved warranty. And so I move to accept the quote from Farha Roofing in the amount of $56,373.83 and authorize the council president to sign.
Second.
All right, I have a first and second. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And it passes. Brian, thank you so much for coming. Appreciate it.
Who's back?
On to item F through H. Mayoral appointments, which is actually kind of funny because the mayor's not here. But he doesn't vote anyway, so it doesn't matter for him, I guess. Kansas statutes under the city manager form of government require 3 staff appointments each year. Those are the city manager, city attorney, and municipal court judge. Mayor Austin is recommending the reappointment of City Manager Ty Lasher, City Attorney Jackie Kelly, and Municipal Court Judge Terry Beal. Anybody have any questions or comments about?
Mr. President, can we just do all 3 of these in one motion?
I believe we'd have to do them separate.
I'm trying to think what that would do. It's cleaner to do it separately.
Okay.
The
Thank
statute
you.
has one provision for each person, so that's the cleanest way to do it.
Mr. President?
Yes.
If there's no other further questions, I make a motion to confirm the mayor's reappointment of Ty Lasher as city manager.
I'll second.
All right, we have a first and second. Any questions or concerns? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Mr.
And
President?
motion passes. Yes.
Consideration of the mayor's reappointment of, I read the wrong. Motion to confirm the mayor's reappointment of Jacqueline Kelly as city attorney.
Second.
And first and second, any other questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, passes.
Mr. President, I make a motion to confirm the mayor's reappointment of Terry Bell as municipal court judge.
Second.
And we have a first and second. Any questions or concerns? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And it passes. All right, discussion and future issues. And our next council meeting is June 4th. I don't have any. Does anybody else have any future issues that needs addressed? No?
Mr. Council President,
Yes, sir.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
I have first in 2 seconds.
Okay, you can have it.
All those in favor of the adjourn, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
I won.
And he made the motion.
I know. Because they go, I'm going to get her.